This is the world's smallest mousetrap game. Now, it's been out a couple of years, and I finally got a hold of a copy myself, and I gotta say, I'm really impressed by the detail. So let's take a closer look. First off, when we start with the game box, we're going to notice that the titling and the art are very similar to the current 2024 edition. In fact, this one was stamped copyright 2024. So I assumed that it was going to be almost identical, just scaled down. However, I was surprised to see that the board art is from an earlier edition. I'm not exactly sure which year, but it is a little bit different than the 2024. And then when I took an even closer look, the mechanism had some differences. So first off, I want to say that this is pretty much a scale model of the 1986 Mousetrap's mechanism, printed on a later board and using box art akin to the 2024 edition. So much so that actually on this box art, I noticed that there's this little broom here, which is actually a nod to the new mechanism. In 2024, they replaced the helping hands connected to the rubber dub tub. That's a tough one to shout off there in the middle of the show. The rub-a-dub tub. Okay, so they replaced what's called the helping hands, which is this little pole here that has three little hands, actually a fourth on the top now that I look at it, and when your ball bearing strikes this, it knocks this ball into the rub-a-dub tub. Instead, in the 2024 edition, what we're noticing is we have this little broom with a bucket on the end that acts as a lever, lifting the single ball bearing up into the rub-a-dub tub. So the 1986 edition relies on two different sized balls, one a metal bearing and one a plastic ball to set off the trap, whereas the 2024 actually only uses one metal ball bearing, which I thought was actually pretty ingenious. The 2024 also has a number of alterations so that it requires fewer parts and the assembly is easier. In fact, that's part of the rule change. In 1986 and earlier models, you would actually assemble the trap as you played the game, accruing cheese to use to try to send your enemies under the trap's basket there and beat them at the end of the game. Whereas in the 2024 edition, we see a change not only to the fundamental design, where the game starts with the trap already set up and ready to go, and the players race around trying to collect cheese to complete a complete cheese wheel to win. The first person who gets a full cheese wheel wins. However, if they get trapped, they lose their cheese and have to start collecting again. So it allows for the trap to be set off more frequently and earlier in the game, as opposed to older versions of Mousetrap, where building the trap was actually part of the fun. Now, that being said, I would definitely hazard to guess that the vast majority of people who have fond childhood memories of Mousetrap really cared more about setting up and playing with the trap itself than the game. In fact, when I did a review where I compared the 86 and the 2024 in very close detail, I had a lot of people chiming in my comment section about how they never really knew the rules to the game. They just liked setting it up and playing with it as a toy. And that's part of the novelty with Mousetrap, is I love that it blurs the line between toy and game. Now, getting back to the world's smallest, we have a relatively new box art. We have art that nods to the 2024, and what I think is funny is it shows a component of the game that's not included here. The mechanism here, like I said, is a miniaturized version of what we see in 1986. Now, this is kind of an interesting build. I found this to be quite challenging. When we open it up, we got a Ziploc bag of parts with a smaller baggie inside of it that has two specialty rubber bands. You really only need one, but they give you two, which is nice, and 4 ball bearings. You need 2 to operate, but the very first time that I was playing with this, I lost a ball bearing in the carpet below me. I was lucky enough to find it with a magnet, but boy howdy, these can get away. And that's why you see these nice lips around the edge of the, almost walls really, around the edge of the board, and that's to keep all of the components nicely stowed and safe. This was a very difficult build. I did not think it would be so. First off, I'm very familiar with the mechanism from the 86 Mousetrap, so when when I saw all these parts, I thought it would fit together the same way, and I was wrong. There are little pegs that stick out from the base of the board that line up in the parts, and sometimes the parts can fit on a little bit crooked and seem like they're fitted correctly. So this took a little bit of trial and error. Also, it does come with plastic tweezers, a little Mickey Mouse set, which do function, but I want to say I actually ended up getting a nice set here out of my medicine cabinet because I needed something with a finer point, and the metal gave me greater dexterity. I was surprised because some of the more difficult parts of the assembly process were placing the mouse on its peg. The mouse is tiny. And again, the mouse that comes with this is more akin to the mouse in the 1986 as opposed to the mouse in the 2024. So basically all the 3D elements are from an older mousetrap, but then the game board and box are from modern mousetraps, which I thought was kind of interesting. But the mouse was really challenging. It was very tough to get a grip on him with any set of tweezers, and then you had to get him on a tiny little post so that he would be under the basket when it came down. The other thing is the diver is extremely light and has a very difficult shape to grasp. So you'll notice, I'll tell you what, nobody wants to watch in real time anybody try to assemble this. It was a pain, but I'm going to include a sped up footage so you can see, because I actually got through most of the build relatively quickly. It was actually setting the trap and setting it off that proved to be the most difficult part. And resetting the trap was really a pain because you have these tiny, tiny little ball bearings that you need to get seated just right. The diver is so difficult to grab, and then you have to put him on a little pedestal that's maybe like 3/16 of an inch across. Then on top of it, getting the basket to rest on top of this post, like what you see in these bigger ones, you have like just under 1/4 of an inch, a 1/2 centimeter of space for this to cling to. On this, I want to say maybe 1 millimeter. It's tiny. So what I discovered was to set the trap, I would set the basket on top of the tweezers and hold them sideways and gently lower the little basket on top of that post between the tongs, I guess, or the portion of the tweezers, and then gently pull the tweezers away once it grabbed it. So there were little tricks I learned to setting the trap. Now I've had it set here for a while in front of me, and I gotta say, I was actually nervous about touching the table because this is so temperamental, but I'm gonna go ahead and set it off and see if I can get a successful one live while we're doing this review at the table. I will give you some close-ups, don't worry here, but let's just set this one off for fun. The parts work, but again, even the slightest bit of like my hand brushing the table when I was done, I don't even think I touched the table. It might have just been the spring force, but you have to be so gentle when setting this off. All of the individual parts do work, but it is such a pain. I mean, here is our diver. That is so little. I mean, when we compare it, oh, here we go. Oh no, 86, the 86 edition. Here we go. First off, our helping hand set, because I mean, I'm not gonna leave Mousetrap on the table and not set it off for y'all. There's our diver from 1986. You see if I can get it to stand up. There's our world's smallest diver. It's so tiny. I love the detail. I'm not gonna lie. I really had to be very gentle putting this together. My hands felt so shaky with these tiny tweezers. I haven't had a challenge like this since I was putting together minis for Marvel Crisis Protocol, where I had to put on like little shoulder pads and stuff on these guys. And I mean, I had to have a helping hands for soldering, that little tool with a magnifying glass. I had to use one of those. Now, thankfully, I didn't need one for this, but I will say it takes a steady hand. You want a relaxing environment. When I first put this together, I pounded some coffee and I was like, we're gonna do this. And I was just so amped on caffeine that trying to put this together, oh wow, what a nightmare. Oh, it was tough. I mean, this is, you have to be so patient, but this to me is like a board game enthusiast's bonsai tree, because I absolutely love the display. And when it works, it's so incredibly pleasing, and it does work. You can get it to work. I'm sorry I didn't get it to go live, but that's kind of part of the challenge, really, is setting this up. And there were little things like this little red track that we see that's basically the miniature version of this portion here. Really, I had to work it onto the post that has it on the board and get it to just the right level so that it would set off when the ball bearing, or I should say carry the ball bearing when it got down the little steps there, because that one regularly caused me trouble. But I would say that even when I was familiar with setting this up, because I've set this up a couple times now, I've set it up and taken it down for photos and for the video, and I gotta say, even when I was used to setting it up, one thing that I got was that the parts on here are kind of cattywampus in comparison to how they are on the board. They're very similar, but in order to get everything to work in the space the way that they wanted to, clearly they had to make some adjustments, obviously compensating for scale and weight. I mean, when we compare the boot portion that strikes this bucket on the top of the steps, clearly you can see the booty itself on the end of it. The booty is a little bit bulkier than the boot on the end of the post here. So obviously they had to make some calculations to get things to work, but little things like having the seesaw actually launch the diver into the pan or the bucket or the pool or whatever you want to call it. See, in the ad it said launch the man into the pan. That's why I always remember it and think pan. You know what? Let's set these off here, and just first off, like I said, this is an example of a mousetrap with the helping hands. This mechanism is identical to our world's smallest. And isn't that just satisfying? Oh, that was a lot of fun. I really enjoy this game. I can tell you that even if you are experienced at setting it up, you play it a lot, you will still have times where the mechanism will fail. So that's why I don't really take it too seriously when the mechanism doesn't work every time on the world's smallest, because even on the modern one, the mechanism can give you trouble. Now let's have a look at this modern one here. And yeah, what you just saw is I did shim the corner a bit. This table is not perfectly level. So I have a little piece of cardboard under this to hopefully make it work correctly. I learned that from my last video. Now, instead of having a crank, we have this little springy stop sign that I pull forward to kick the boot. The track now goes down and around the steps. We noticed that there's a lot of texture missing from this modern one, and we're going to see that broom mechanism with the bucket in action. Oh, I love it. I like the dynamic nature of the little broom here. I thought that was so charming. Let me grab the mouse figure out of here real quick. Let's look at the mice that we have in our mousetrap games. Hold on here. It's a lot to work around. I just love these games. I just love these games. And this tiny model is insane. So here's the 2024 mouse. Here's the 1986 mouse, and let me see if I can... There's the world's smallest mouse. Don't worry, I'll give you close-up pictures. I'm just saying, just look at it from here. Does it show up on camera? Is it just a little red speck? I mean, that's... Oh, It's so charming. It's so charming. I would say altogether, after having put this together once, I tried again. The video that I'll include in here is a time lapse of about 20 minutes. It's not my first rodeo with this game. The very first time I set it up was in one of my members only videos, and I had to time lapse that one as well. So even with experience, it took me about 20 minutes to set it up or so, and I would say probably a good 5 minutes of that. We'll have to look. 3 to 5 minutes. We're setting it off multiple times, trying to get it to actually, or setting it up multiple times and setting it off multiple times to get it to run correctly. So to be fair, the setup itself, less than 20 minutes, actually getting the mechanism to run about 20 minutes. But I mean, the tiny parts are so charming. This is such a neat little model. That diver is so small. Now the diver has a bit more weight at his feet compared to the other divers that we have. Let's see here. We've got 2024. I will say that the 2024 diver is about 10-15% smaller. So like if we're looking at, okay, so just pick, oh no, see, that's why it's tough for me to get them even with my fingers. There we go. So we put the mouse over here. We got our 2024 diver. We got our 1986 diver. This is Holy Diver. You've been down so long. Sorry, little Ronnie James Dio there. Look at how little he is by comparison. Now the 2024 is a bit scaled down from the 86. I definitely notice the weight difference. The 86 one is a lot heavier, but you don't need a whole lot of weight to agitate the tub and get the little cage to drop down on the mouse. But I mean, that is what a David and Goliath story right here. Oh, this is charming. I gotta say, you could do a lot worse for a little $10 toy. I think I got it for like 10 bucks. It's one thing that I'm really impressed by with the world's smallest games is they're generally really affordable. And as you can tell by the Hot Wheels on my wall, one of the biggest things that I like is I love toys and games that keep an affordable price point. Fun is for everybody. And so I love it when we can find stuff that just about anybody can get a hold of and have a great time. However, I will say, because of the super small parts, don't give this to a younger kid. This has to be like a teen or a tween. Or like a kid who's really used to playing with models, if you're going to be giving this as a gift for kids, just because it can be really frustrating, really difficult, and you'll probably want to give them a hand if they are not deft at putting this stuff together. But that being said, great value. I thought it was so much fun. Anything that lets me build and set off mousetrap in any scale is always going to win by me. I gotta say, the world's smallest mousetrap pleases the couch. This is awesome. I highly recommend it. I'll have a link in my description. I did sample a couple other world's smallest games, so maybe I'll do a review on those, but oh, what a joy. And this thing really was, I cannot tell you how much time it took me to set this up and set it off over and over and over again to get you the successful footage that I'm able to show, and it's only a few takes, so please forgive me. But so much fun. Like I said, board game bonsai tree. If you like little pop culture stuff like this, little kitschy things, there are worse ways to spend an afternoon. This is like, if you like Legos, play with one of these guys. Just awesome. I love it. All right. Thank you so much. Please like and subscribe. I had a great time hanging out with you today. And thank you to my couch potatoes, the channel members who make great episodes like this possible. It's with their support that I'm able to track down neat little curiosities like that. I'm so thankful. Thanks for joining me. We'll see you next time.